The autumn air in Portland, Oregon, was sharp with the scent of damp leaves and wood smoke as I pulled up to an estate sale in September 2001. The old house stood like a sentinel of history, its sagging porch and weathered clapboards whispering of a life that had spanned a century. Inside, tables were laden with relics, faded photographs, chipped china, and furniture worn smooth by decades of use. The sale was for a woman who had died at 103, her possessions a tapestry of a long, tumultuous life. I wandered through the crowded rooms, my boots scuffing against creaky floorboards, drawn to the stories embedded in each item. In a dim corner, I spotted a small wine cabinet, its compact frame unassuming yet striking. Measuring about 12.5 inches wide, 7.5 deep, and 16.25 tall, it was crafted from dark wood, its grain polished by time, with a faint sheen that caught the light. Something about it felt heavier than its size suggested, as if it carried an invisible weight. A woman in her late 40s approached, her eyes red-rimmed, her voice soft but heavy with grief. She introduced herself as the granddaughter of the deceased, sharing fragments of her grandmother's extraordinary story. Born in Portland, the old woman had grown up in a bustling city, married young, and raised a family in a home filled with laughter, until World War II tore it all apart. Deported to a Nazi concentration camp, she watched her parents, siblings, husband, and 3 children perish in the horrors. She alone survived, escaping with a group of prisoners and making a perilous journey to Spain, where she eked out an existence until the war ended. When she immigrated to America, she brought just 3 items: a steamer trunk heavy with memories, a sewing box worn from years of use, and this very wine cabinet, a silent relic of her past. The granddaughter's voice trembled as she spoke, as if recounting the tale stirred something dormant. I purchased the cabinet, along with the sewing box and a couple of chairs, loading them into my truck with a sense of satisfaction. As I secured the items, the granddaughter hurried toward me, her steps quick, her expression a mix of relief and unease. "You got the Dybbuk box," she said, her words slipping out like a warning she hadn't meant to voice. "Dybbuk?" I asked what she meant, and she explained how her grandmother had always kept the cabinet in her sewing room, high on a shelf, out of reach. "She called it the Dybbuk box," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As a child, she'd been curious, asking what was inside. Her grandmother's reaction was unforgettable. The old woman spat 3 times through her fingers, a ritual to ward off evil, and murmured, "A Dybbuk and a Kesselim." The cabinet was never to be opened, a rule delivered with such gravity it was etched into the family's memory. She shared that her grandmother had wanted the box buried with her, but Orthodox Jewish burial customs forbade it. So, it remained an unwanted heirloom passed to strangers. I asked what a Dybbuk or Kesselim was, but she shook her head, unsure, her eyes flicking to the cabinet as if it might stir. Curiosity tugged at me. Why not open it now, together, and solve the mystery? Her face paled and she stepped back. "No," she said sharply. She was serious. "We can't disrespect that." Feeling a pang of sympathy, I offered to let her keep it, thinking it might ease her grief. Her reaction was jarring. She grew agitated, her voice rising. "You bought it. It's yours now. We made a deal." I tried to reassure her, saying I didn't care about the money, that it was a kindness. But she shouted, "We don't want it." Tears streamed down her face, and she turned, fleeing back to the house. I stood there, keys dangling, dismissing it as grief's raw edge. I drove away, the cabinet rattling softly in the truck bed. At the time, I ran a small furniture refinishing shop, a cozy space filled with the scent of sawdust and varnish, where I breathed new life into old pieces. I carried the cabinet to the basement workshop, a dim, cluttered room lit by rows of incandescent bulbs and long fluorescent tubes. Tools lay scattered across benches, and the air was cool, heavy with the promise of work. I planned to restore the cabinet for my mother's birthday, imagining it gleaming in her dining room. For now, it sat in a corner, unassuming. I opened the shop and stepped out for errands, leaving my salesperson, a young woman who'd been with me for 2 years, reliable and steady, in charge. Barely 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with her panicked voice. "Someone's in the workshop. They're breaking glass, swearing, The gates are locked, I can't get out. My heart raced as I sped back, the truck's engine roaring, tires screeching as I pushed it to dangerous speeds. I arrived to find the iron security gates bolted shut from the inside, an impossibility unless someone was still there. Bursting into the shop, I found her curled in my office corner, sobbing, her face pale as if she'd seen a ghost. She pointed to the basement, unable to speak. I descended, flashlight in hand, and was hit by a stench so sharp it burned my nostrils. Cat urine, pungent and overwhelming. But animals? Never in my shop, not a stray, not a pet. The darkness was absolute, the lights dead. Sweeping the beam, I saw why, every bulb shattered. 9 incandescents twisted in their sockets, 10 fluorescents in jagged shards across the concrete. Glass crunched under my boots as I searched for the intruder, nothing. The basement had one entrance, the stairs I'd come down. Anyone leaving would have collided with me. I climbed back up, but my employee was gone, fled in terror. She never returned, dodging my calls, as if speaking of it would summon whatever she'd felt. I didn't connect it to the cabinet. It was just wood, right? But a chill settled in my bones, refusing to leave. Weeks passed, and I turned to the cabinet, ready to refinish it. Opening it revealed a clever mechanism. One door swung the other open, popping a small drawer below. The craftsmanship was impeccable, almost too perfect for such a simple piece. Inside, I found a strange collection, 2 wheat pennies, one from 1928, one from 1925, locks of blonde and black-brown hair tied with string, a small granite statue etched with Hebrew letters, later translated as Shalom, meaning peace, a dried rosebud, brittle and faded, a golden wine cup, tarnished but elegant, and a bizarre black cast-iron candlestick with octopus-like legs, heavy and cold to the touch. I boxed them up, intending to return them to the family, but they refused, as if the items were tainted. Cleaning the cabinet with lemon oil, I noticed Hebrew carved into the back, script I couldn't read, its meaning elusive. I snapped a photo, thinking it might matter, but pushed it aside. October 28th, my mother's birthday, came, but she called to say she was heading out of town with my sister for a few days. We rescheduled for Halloween. She arrived at the shop, and I unveiled the cabinet, proud of its understated beauty. She turned it over in her hands, admiring the wood's grain, while I stepped away to make a quick call. 5 minutes later, an employee burst in. "Something's wrong with your mom." I ran back to find her slumped beside the cabinet, face blank, tears streaming silently. She wouldn't speak, wouldn't move. Paramedics confirmed a stroke, partial paralysis, speech gone. She recovered some, using an alphabet board to communicate. Asking how she felt, she spelled, "No gift," tears welling. I reminded her of the cabinet, thinking her memory was clouded. "Hate gift," she spelled, distress mounting. I laughed it off, promising something else, but a knot formed in my stomach. I didn't believe in the paranormal, never had. I passed the cabinet to my sister, who returned it after a week, saying the doors kept swinging open on their own, no springs to blame. My brother and his wife took it next, lasting 3 days. He said it smelled of jasmine. She swore it reeked of cat urine. My girlfriend tried, begging me to sell after 2 days. I did, to a kind middle-aged couple. 3 days later, I arrived at the shop to find it abandoned at the door, a note pinned to it, "This has a bad darkness." My skin crawled, but I took it home, unsure what else to do. Nightmares began, vivid, recurring horrors. I'd walk with a trusted friend, their eyes suddenly wrong, evil peering out. They'd morph into a hag, demonic and withered, beating me mercilessly. I'd wake bruised, marked as if the blows were real. I dismissed it as stress. But when my sister, brother, and his wife stayed over, breakfast brought a revelation. My sister described the same nightmare, the hag, the assault, every detail. My brother and wife nodded, they'd had it too. We traced it. Nightmares struck when the cabinet was in our homes. I called my girlfriend. She confirmed, down to the date she returned it. Panic crept in. Shadows flickered in my peripheral vision, tall, dark blurs vanishing when I turned. Visitors saw them too. I stored the cabinet outside. That night, the smoke alarm blared. No fire, just the urine stench. Back inside, the smell followed. Researching online, I dozed off, another nightmare. Waking at 4:30 a.m., hot breath grazed my neck, jasmine filled the air, and a shadow loped down the hall. I wanted to destroy it but feared trapping its presence. eBay seemed the answer, someone might understand. I listed it, no reserve, pleading for a buyer with knowledge. All items included. June 2003, I won it, curious but skeptical. Emails flooded in. I built a site, abandoned by September. Dibbuk, a spirit stuck in limbo, possessing the living. Kesselim, perhaps a priestly figure. Inscription, the Shema prayer, recited in fear. August 2003, roommates rotated it, burning eyes, sickness, bugs swarming. The box opened itself. September, odors, illness, broken bones, dead mice, failing electronics. October-January, insomnia, burnt bulbs, car woes, shadows, strange smells, hair loss. Half gone by January 27, 2004. Blood tests clean. Sold it, desperate. Someone take it. Now, let's expand this tale to draw you deeper into its mystery. Imagine the grandmother, a young woman in the 1940s, stumbling through war-torn Spain after her escape. She finds the cabinet in the ruins of a synagogue, its doors ajar, contents spilling onto the dusty floor. Locals whisper of cursed relics, but she's drawn to its sturdy beauty, a symbol of resilience amid chaos. She takes it, sensing a presence but dismissing it as trauma shadow. In America, she hides it in her sewing room, spitting at its mention, teaching her family to fear it. The granddaughter's outburst wasn't just grief, it was terror, inherited across generations, a warning she couldn't articulate. The shop incident was more than broken glass. My salesperson, Sarah, later whispered of hearing voices, low, guttural murmurs from the basement before the shattering began. She swore the glass exploded without touch, as if hurled by invisible hands. The cat urine stench? A marker of unclean spirits in some folklore, a sign of something malevolent staking its claim. The bulbs, twisted and shattered, suggested poltergeist activity, a force beyond reason. My mother's stroke was too precise, too sudden. Her hate gift wasn't confusion, it was a plea, a warning from a mind struggling to speak. The cabinet's doors swinging open for my sister weren't mechanical failure, they were invitations, beckoning something to emerge. My brother and his wife's clashing odors, jasmine versus urine, hinted at conflicting entities, perhaps the Dibbuk and Kesselim warring within. The nightmares were a shared torment. The hag wasn't just a dream figure, she was the Dibbuk's form, her eyes hollow, her breath rancid, her blows leaving real marks. I'd wake gasping, checking my arms for bruises that shouldn't exist. The shadows in my home weren't tricks of light, tall, vertical blurs that moved with purpose, seen by friends who left shaken. One, a skeptic like me, swore he saw a figure hover over the cabinet before vanishing into the wall. Storing it outside was a desperate act. The smoke alarm's wail, with no fire, felt like a summons, the cabinet refusing banishment. The urine smell followed, seeping into my home, a reminder it wasn't done with me. The jasmine scent, fleeting and sweet, came with that nightmare breath on my neck, a shadow fleeing down the hall, a presence too real to dismiss. Researching, I found Dybbuk lore, spirits trapped in limbo, possessing the living, causing madness or worse. The Kesselim, tied to a priestly figure, might explain the hair locks, souls bound to the box, perhaps victims of the grandmother's lost family. The pennies, from 1928 and 1925, could be temporal anchors, tying the entity to a specific era. The rosebud? A symbol of lost love, brittle with time. The wine cup and octopus-legged candlestick? Ritual tools, perhaps used to seal or summon. The Shalom statue was a plea for peace, ironic in its cursed company. The Hebrew inscription, the Shema prayer, was a shield, recited in fear or at death's door, carved to contain what lay within. By August 2003, I lived with 6 roommates, a lively bunch who thought rotating the box through our rooms was a game. Within days, complaints emerged, burning eyes, like sandpaper on corneas, One roommate, Jake, grew listless, barely eating. Another, Mia, fell ill with no cause. I blamed allergies, but then came the bugs. On a Friday, thousands swarmed outside, a buzzing cloud blotting the sun for hours. Just summer oddities, I told myself. Saturday night, we found the box ajar in a corner, though we'd locked it shut. No one admitted touching it. September brought a tidal wave of misfortune. Strange odors, rotting trash, ammonia, permeated the house. The dumpster out back overflowed, untouched by collectors. Mia got bronchitis, coughing through sleepless nights. I broke a finger slamming a door, the pain sharp and lingering. Mice nested in Jake's car engine, their bodies charred as if burned from within. Electronics died. Our Xbox, a toaster, a TV, even watches stopped ticking. Coincidence, I insisted, but doubt gnawed. October to January was a blur of dread. I moved out, living alone, insomnia gripping me since October 6th. Light bulbs burned out weekly, their filaments black. My car's transmission fluid vanished, scorched dry. Shadows grew bolder, dark shapes darting in corners. The garage reeked of juniper or ammonia, no source found. Most chilling, on January 27, 2004, my hair began falling out. By Friday, half was gone. I was in my early 20s, blood tests clean. Stress? Maybe. But the box loomed. I listed it on eBay, desperate. Destruction risked trapping its presence. Someone out there, occult experts, collectors, might know what to do. I included everything: pennies, hair, statue, rosebud, cup, candlestick. No reserve, just take it. Winning it in June 2003, I was a skeptic, drawn by curiosity. Emails poured in, so I built a website, abandoned by September, too much attention. Dibbuk, a spirit in limbo, possessing, disrupting. Kesselim, a priestly echo, tied to the hair. Shema, a prayer for protection. Imagine the grandmother's journey, escaping camps, finding the cabinet in Spain's ruins, its contents glowing faintly in the dark. She took it, ignoring warnings, a talisman of survival. In Portland, she hid it, spitting wards, her fear a legacy. Sarah's whispers, my mother's plea, the box's invitations, the hag's blows, all pointed to something alive, aware. Roommates' journals tracked symptoms. Jake's mockery turned to fear. Bugs were omens, illnesses drains, electronics siphoned. Hair loss, my life force leached. Selling it brought relief, but echoes lingered, faint smells, fleeting shadows. Hair regrew, sleep returned. The box's path continues, a warning: some doors, once opened, never fully close.